In mathematics, the logarithm is the inverse function of exponential function. That means that the logarithm of a given number is the exponent to which another fixed number must be raised to produce a certain number. Well, in simplest case, the logarithm counts the number of occurrences of the same factor in repeated multiplication. Yung history ng logarithms, matatrace back mo pa simula 17th century sa Europe. So ito ay nagsimula doon sa isang book na binigay ni John Napier noong 1614. Title nito ay Mirifici Logarithmorum Canonis Descriptio or Description of the Wonderful Rule of Logarithms. So yung pagka-discover ni John Napier of logarithms, it extended the realm of analysis beyond the scope of algebraic methods. Ito nga yung mga masyadong malalaking number. So, dalawa yan sila ni exponential. Si logarithm and exponential, yan dalawang yan ay nagdi-deal with large numbers. So hanggang ngayon, these two functions, logarithm and exponential functions, are being useful for some fields. Halimbawa sa logarithm, it is very useful for, let's say for example, Richter scale of earthquake. Pwede mo rin siyang makita or magamit sa measurement of sounds, decibel. So in short, yung logarithmic functions is also as useful as exponential. And again, always remember that logarithmic and exponential functions are inverse of each. So basically, may mga ways na hindi kayang isolve ni exponential na kaya namang isolve ni logarithmic. So for today, we will be discussing what are logarithmic functions and how we will graph logarithmic functions. But before that, take a look on the objectives for this week and the content of this video. So we will start by definition of logarithmic functions. A logarithmic function is a function whose inverse is exponential function. So sinabi ko yan kanina, yung inverse niya is exponential. Ang logarithmic function ay merong form na f of x is equal to a log of x minus c to the base b plus d, kung saan yung a, b, c, and d are real numbers. Ibig sabihin, yung a, b, c, d lang yung makikita nyong numbers dyan. So, yung log and yung x will remain as is. Here's an example of logarithmic function. So, dito, 5 is the a, 2 is the base or b, 3 is the c, pero we will change the sign so that will become negative 3. Only c will change the sign. And then lastly, 4 is d. How do we graph logarithmic function? The graph of logarithmic function looks like this. So para siyang yung exponential, kaya lang medyo iba yung kanyang orientation, patayo. This function has a form of f of x is equal to a log of x to the base b. So wala ditong c at saka d. Ngayon, kagaya ng exponential, lahat ng functions on that form has the same graph. Ibig sabihin, kahit anong klaseng function ng logarithm pa yan, basta ang form niya is a log of x to the base b, is pare-parehas yung kanyang graph. The only difference is that a and b here indicates the closeness of the graph to the x-axis. Ibig sabihin, pag tumataas yung base, lumalayo yung graph. Pag lumiliit yung base, lumalapit yung graph. Kaya lang, imbes na y-axis, lumalapit ito or lumalayo ito sa x-axis. Dito. Ngayon, lahat ng graph na yan ay nagpapass through the point 1, 0. So, kung exponential 0, 1, pagdating ng logarithmic 1, 0. The y-axis here serves as the asymptote of the graph. Kung sa exponential x-axis yung asymptote natin, dito y-axis yung nagiging asymptote. So whenever you will graph a logarithmic function with the form of f of x is equal to a log of x to the base b, you will just draw a graph like what was shown a while ago. Look at these graphs for your reference. As you can see, both of the graphs passes through the point 1, 0. Parehas din silang merong asymptote na nasa y-axis. And if you look closely, comparing natin si A kay B, mas malayo si A kumpara kay B, which is mas malapit naman doon kay x-axis. That is because of their bases. Kasi yung base ng A is 2, that is a pretty large number na when it comes to logarithmic function. That's why the graph is medyo far from the x-axis. While dito naman sa B, we have a 1/2 or a lower number para sa ating base. That's why medyo malapit siya to the x-axis. But of course, to have a proper way of graphing logarithmic function, we have to use the table of values. Kagaya ng exponential, we should use at least 5 points to ensure the accuracy of the graph. Let's say for example, we will be graphing the function f of x is equal to log of x to the base 2. Start by constructing the table of values. So we have here 5 numbers. Meron tayong 5 blanks for x and 5 blanks for y. Instead of choosing x, you will choose here y numbers for you to solve it easily. Kasi kapag x yung ginamit mo, mahihirapan kang isolve yung logarithm. So it is better to choose y para mas mabilis mo siyang ma-graph. Also, make sure that the middle number is always 0, kagaya nung sa exponential. So, instead of x, sa y tayo maglalagay ng number. So, ganun pa rin. Lahat ng mga taas ay negative numbers. And then, kung ano yung negative number na ginamit mo, yun din yung positive numbers para balanse. After that, you will substitute each y to the function to obtain the x. So, nung exponential x ang sinasubstitute natin to obtain the y, dito baliktad kasi nga inverse sila of each. So, from the given, gamitin muna yung f of x, gawin muna siyang y para madaling ma-solve or may mapaglagyan tayo ng y natin. We all know that f of x and y are same. So, gagawin is, yung negative 2, substitute sa y. Kasi y yan, hindi siya x. Pag sinubstitute mo yan, And then, we will transform this into exponential equation. So, paano siya ita-transform? Gamitin si base na 2, and then exponent yun nasa equal, and then, tanggalin si log at gagawing x. Kung nahihirapan, pwedeng balikan yung lesson 1 about this. And sa lesson 2, sinabi rin siya kung paano gagawin. After that, simplify. So, we have negative exponents, get the reciprocal, and then we will arrive at 1/4. Then this 1/4 will be used as our x. Next, substitute again. Transform to exponential. Reciprocal because we have negative exponent, and then simplify. Write your answer on the corresponding x. Continue the process. Then we have x as 1. 2 raised to 0. Ito na naman. Any number raised to 0 is always equal to 1. And then, continue the process. Substitute. Transform. Simplify. Write your answer on the corresponding x. Lastly, for 2, substitute. Transform, simplify, and then write your answer on the corresponding x. So, dahil nakumpleto na yung table, we will combine corresponding x and y to complete a point. 1/4 negative 2, 1/2 negative 1, 1, 0, 2, 1, and 4, 2. Pag na-complete mo na yung points, you can graph now the function into a Cartesian plane. So, ganito yung Cartesian plane na ginawa ko. Hindi mo na kailangan damihan pa yung numbers na ilalagay as long as kaya mong i-occupy lahat ng nasa table of values. So, to draw yung asymptote, ito yung green. Tapos, ilalagay na yung each point. Ito yung first. Ito yung second. Third point. Fourth point. And then the fifth point. Pwede nyo i-check back yung table para makita nyo kung tama yung nailagay kong mga points. So, dahil na-plot na yung points, ko-connect mo na lang sila using a curve. Okay? Curve. Hindi po linya ha. Curve po ang gagamitin. So, what if the function is not the basic form o yung f of x is equal to log of x to the base b? So, dito papasok yung tinatawag na translation o yung movement. So, kagaya ng exponential, pag alam mo na yung parent function, may gagraph mo na yung mas complex. So, dito ganun din. Tignan natin kung paano siya. Since the graph of logarithmic function of the form f of x is equal to a log of x to the base b has the same graphs, we can easily graph a more complex logarithmic function using it. So, kagaya nga siya ng exponential function. So, ito yung ating tinatawag na basic form. So, yung graph na yan, ayan yung magiging graph ng lahat ng basic form. And it always curves around this point, which is 1, 0. So, tinatawag itong parent point, kagaya ng exponential, parent point. So, definitely, the function is parent function. So, yung presence of those two concepts makes graphing complex logarithmic functions easy. It is because on this point depends the movement or translation of the graph of complex logarithmic functions. A complex logarithmic function has a form of f of x is equal to a log of x minus c to the base b plus d. So, yan din yung pinakita ko kanina. The yellow colored symbols is the parent function which we had graphed earlier. Kanina yun yung ginaph natin. So, yung yellow part na yan ay parent function. So, kagaya nga lang din siya ng exponential functions. So, yung C, nag-i-indicate na naman siya ng horizontal translation or left and right movement. Tapos, yung D, it indicates naman vertical translation or movement up or down. So, kapag ka minus C to the right, kapag ka naman plus C to the left, minus C to the right, plus C to the left. Kapag plus D upward, minus D downward. But what part of the graph is moving? Kagaya pa rin ng exponential, lahat yan gumagalaw pero magbe-base lang tayo sa tinatawag nating parent point. So yung parent point na yan ang magsisilbing ating gabay para sa pag-graph ng mas complex na logarithmic function. Let's say for example, we will graph this function. Kung makikita niya, meron siyang minus 2, so that is minus c. Therefore, we will have a horizontal translation because of this. And according to the rule, it will move 2 units to the right. So, ganito siya i-graph. Umpisahan nyo lagi sa asymptote. Itong green na yan. Ang asymptote always on the y-axis because we are talking about logarithmic functions. If it is exponential, di dun tayo sa x-axis. Logarithmic tayo ngayon, so that's why y-axis siya. After that, draw the parent point which is 1, 0. Next, ang function natin ay merong translation ng dalawang units to the right. So, move the parent point twice to the right. So, kada isang movement, isang x ang nakikita. Dalawa. So, dito na yung bago nating point. Siyempre, dito sa logarithmic, horizontal, kasama si asymptote. So, move mo din si asymptote ng isa, dalawa. So, dito na yung bago nating asymptote. Pagkatapos nun, pwede mo nang i-draw yung curve on the translated point. And that will be the graph of our function. Another example. So, dito naman, meron tayong tinatawag na vertical translation dahil sa number na ito, plus 2 or plus d. So, dahil plus d, kailangan natin gumalaw ng upward. 2 units upward. Again, asymptote mag-umpisa. Parent point. And then, dahil meron tayong translation, upward, galaw, 2, pataas sa 2. Dito na yung bagong point. So, dito, dahil meron na tayong bagong point, hindi sasama si asymptote. Lagyan na lang ng curve. So, ayan na yung magiging bagong graph natin. What if magkasama? So, dito meron tayong dalawang movement, vertical and horizontal, because of these numbers. According to the rule given, it will move 2 units to the right and also 2 units upward. So, paano yan? Ganito. Start with the asymptote. and then parent point. Pagkatapos ng parent point, galaw na kaagad. Gamitin muna natin si horizontal sa 2. So, dahil horizontal ito, isama natin yung asymptote. 1, 2. Dito na yung bagong asymptote. Tapos, gumawa ng vertical translation sa 2. Dito na yung ating final point. Tapos, drawing ka na lang ng curve sa ating final point. And that's how you graph logarithmic functions.